Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Rich. I'm joined this morning by my good friend, Mike the Machine Bruce, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a moment. Let me go ahead and get set up here. Let's see. I just got a notification on my phone, my Apple Watch, that Coffee with Rich is on. So I guess we can get started now. Hey, folks, thank you for joining me this morning. Looks like we got quite a few people jumping on already. We're at, looks like almost 20. We got Tiny's on this morning, Jim, Will, Rich, Walt. Good morning to the 24 people that are joining me this morning. We got a really great guest this morning, but before I let him introduce himself, remember the sponsor of today's show is the AmericanWarriorSociety.com. Check us out there if you want to get swag. We also have the AmericanWarriorShow.com, where we've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of guests in the community, as well as put together some really good shows. And right now we're doing an emerging threat series, so you can check that out on the AmericanWarriorShow.com. And like I said, this morning I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Mike the Machine Bruce. And Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
Mike, looks like we got about 30 people joining us on this early morning here in May. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Mike the Machine Bruce. The Machine was a nickname that was given to me by two strength mentors of mine. I kind of am known for some crazy feats of strength that I've done with my neck. It's kind of an odd thing, but that was my shtick, and kind of built up in the strength community where I became the Machine, as well as that led into me being a professional performing strongman and motivational speaker, and that's kind of where I'm at, pretty much.
Now, you and I met in the Marine Corps, man, like 26 years ago, and lost touch for a decade or two, and finally, you couldn't hide from me, man. I tracked you down.
It was a long, long time ago, 1994, 95, I believe.
Yeah. And
Yes,
so you were in the Marines for a while. What did you do in the Marines? Tell us a little bit about that.
I was an 03 41 Morton 81's Weapons Company, 1/8, and unfortunately my career was cut short, which was a hard pill to swallow. I graduated Parris Island as an honor graduate out of 2170, and went to SOI, did really well there, and then went into Lejeune with Weapons Company 1/8, ended up getting hurt and was honorably discharged under medical. It was a tough spot because my father was a Marine, and with me being so hard charged and motivated as I was, I actually refused the medical board 3 times. But when you have the injury that I had, there's nothing really you could do. I ended up jacking my lower back up severely, which ended up affecting me later on in life, which you're well aware of. But we can get into that later if you like.
Yeah. So, thank you to the 32 people that are on. Please like and share. We're going to be talking about Mike's experience as a grappler, some of the amazing things he's done with neck training, and some of the stuff he's still doing today through he's a sponsored athlete through, I want to let him talk about that. But thank you to the 33 people that are on. Please like and share. So, Mike, so you get out of the Marine Corps, your back's a little jacked up. What was the next thing in your life? Where are you from originally? You don't sound like you're from Kentucky, where you currently live at and run the gym.
I'm almost 46 years old. It's hard when you ask me to introduce myself. I don't like talking about myself. It's kind of awkward to give, because you know me really well. It's kind of awkward to give a background of like, well, I'm this, because I don't like tooting my own horn or stuff like that. But I'm almost 46 years old. I weigh 198 pounds, which is my prime competition weight of 20 years ago. I'm from Milford, Massachusetts. I live in Kentucky with the rest of the hillbilly folks, where we say big time and hoot. How you all doing? But I don't follow the narrative. I haven't got the big belt buckle, the cowboy hat, and the boots yet or anything. That wouldn't work for me. So I'm from Massachusetts, and then you asked where it went after the Marine Corps. So I was messed up in the head really bad after the Marine Corps. Physically and mentally, as I alluded to earlier. I couldn't walk. I had to use a cane. I had a severe tear in my lumbar area at L4, L5, where the nucleus of the disc leaked out and all that kind of trash. So it was pretty rough to be a guy that I started training when I was 13 years old as an amateur wrestler. I come from a horrible childhood where I was beaten severely by my mom's second husband and watched my real father, my biological dad, beat my mother. And it was just a really bad time. So I was in and out of counseling at the age of 7 years old to 13. So when my mom married her third husband, Mr. Bruce, gentleman that ended up adopting me, and I took his name, I got into amateur wrestling at a young age. And so I'm going somewhere with this. So the reason I went to Marine Corps was not just because of Mr. Bruce, but it was because as a wrestler, I ended up working out as a freshman and having a lot of success with strength as a 171-pound young kid, where my ego and my head got so big that it hindered me on the mat to the point I got kicked off the team 2 years in a row because of my ego, even though I was the starting wrestler for that weight class. But my attitude was just in the toilet. And, personalities come and go, but we got to always build our character. And it was just a lot of success came to me young and I couldn't handle it. And so looking at Mr. Bruce, he was a tall, skinny guy, looked like a cross between, I'd say, Clint Eastwood and Sam Elliott. Very handsome fella, about 6'1", about $160 soaking wet. But when he walked in a room, he looked like he was about 280 pounds of muscle, and everybody's eyes went on him. And I wanted that. I wanted that sense of confidence in myself without having to talk and be a knucklehead. I didn't like being a knucklehead, so I joined the Marine Corps. So after the Marine Corps, and I did well, I wanted to fulfill the potential everybody thought I had in wrestling as a young high school kid, but I was such a knucklehead. And like I said, I couldn't do it. So after I healed my back at that time, around 1996 I think 95 maybe was when the UFC first had its first show. I want to say 94, 95. And around the New England area, those matches, those fights were not even sanctioned at the time. Back when I started amateur, it was we were on exhibitions. We were called an exhibition underneath boxing and kickboxing shows. And so I started competing in amateur grappling, and went from there and had some pretty good success in New England territories for about 4 years, and I made pro.
And if you want to see some of Mike's fights, I'm sure you can find a few online. So let me do some housekeeping here, Mike. Let me see who's on. Jared is on 895 out there. I think you're in Montana, right, brother? Good to see you. It's early where you're at. Jim is on South Bend, Indiana, coin number 182. James is on from West Virginia. Good morning, Rudy. Good morning, Rick, Sean, Gerald. My good friend TC is on. Walt, I'm glad you got today off. Rasmic, Doug, we had Doug Lightfoot on last Friday. Really good show with Doug. Will Parker. Will, we're going to get you on the show one morning out there in Montana as well. Gilly, John, Alan, Greg, Jeff Day, John. Wow, great. 40 folks joining us live this morning. Thank you to the folks that are watching live and for those that will watch the replay. John is on. Wade is on. Oh, Rick from North Dakota. Okay, so so you wanted to fulfill the potential that others kind of saw in you, Mike. That's kind of what you were talking about. So that's one of the things that led you into fighting. Back then in 94, 95 timeframe when you got into that, was it still kind of called no holds barred, or what was it called? Because I know you were doing grappling, striking, you're doing everything.
It was called no holds barred, but that wasn't the case. I mean, we didn't have gloves on, and some of my matches are on YouTube. Like I said, a lot of them back then, it wasn't even sanctioned. So if you were to go to look it up in a database, there's not even going to list anything because they weren't sanctioned unless you were a big name at the time fighting for the UFC. Now, I was not a great fighter. I didn't like getting hit. I don't even think I hit hard, but my forte was submission wrestling. And sometimes they called it shoot fighting, which other times they called it full contact jiu-jitsu, even though we had no gloves on, no gis, because I don't like gis at all. And I ended up becoming a 5-time submission wrestling champion in the New England area. And I ended up winning the Connecticut State Judo Championships in 1998. So that was more my thing. I'd rather just grab some back then, not now, of course, but back then I'd rather grab someone and suplex them because I knew at my body weight, there's no way I was going to get overpowered, which I never was. I was never manhandled, but I just didn't want to get hit. So I leave the hitting to all those other fellas. But I want to say this though, everybody nowadays, at least out where I live in Kentucky, where all the redneck hillbillies are, everyone's, I do that there UFC. Now listen, you're not doing UFC. Out of most of these states, I don't know how anybody's ever actually made it to the UFC, right? So my tip for everybody is just because someone doesn't compete in UFC or Bellator or what have you, doesn't mean there's not some card-carrying tough guys out in the garages and barns out in Kentucky or elsewhere. Just because they're not on the main stage doesn't mean they couldn't stretch it. Yeah. I've met quite a few guys like that I'm like, gosh darn. I think too many people practice a little bit, but they've got no record or nothing to validate their background, but they're the UFC, so I just want to add that in there. I think there's a lot of guys that don't compete that are, really, really card carrying tough guys.
So I should have you've twisted some horseshoes and bent some big metal spikes last time one of the times you were at my house. I should have brought those on to show the listener, but what got you from fighting to really serious strength training into the strongman arena? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'll try not to waffle on too much. So if I start waffling on, just cut me. There was a guy named Jed Johnson from the Diesel Crew. It was a guy named Jed and Smitty. Diesel Crew is very well known. Well, Jed was the one, and I had only, back in 2003, I'd spoke to Jed here and there, and everybody had always told me in the gyms that I was really strong, pound for pound, for my weight. Like deadlifting, so I could deadlift close to 700 pounds on the floor. I've got that on video at 198 pounds, drug-free. So anyway, I saw Jed bending a spike, and I thought, well, I could bend a spike. If Jed can do it, I can do it. Now, of course, Jed's a much bigger fellow than myself, but I went into the store in Home Depot, back where I was from, got a spike, went in the basement, and I cranked on that son of a gun every way I could, and my breaking blood vessels in my head, and I couldn't do it. So Jed was the first one to motivate me to try. At the time, there was a gentleman named Bud Jeffries, who's still very well known today. He's one of the world's strongest men, not in those competitions, but in general, very innovative. I had been talking to Bud around the same time, just through correspondent email. I ordered some of his books, and we started talking. I sent him a video of me, and Bud took me under his wing. I went to Florida from Massachusetts and trained under Bud and learned how to perform feats of strength. Now, there's no tricks. That's an insult. Everything that I do and any of the guys I'm associated with, it's all legit. Twisting horseshoes, bending spikes, bending things over my head. I was known to bend things across my throat, which I no longer do. And through Bud Jeffries, I learned from the best the best performing strongman ever, which is Dennis Rogers. He's a grandmaster, and he took me under his wing. So those two gentlemen gave me the name The Machine because I was really fit but very strong, and that was not a common combination that you would generally see. And they thought that was a good nickname for me. It's kind of stuck. That was given to me in 2007. And Dennis and Bud are both ministers. And they said, well, you've got a heck of a story you could share about your childhood, what you went through, and how you got to where you are today. Because most people that go through what I went through end up in jail or they're dead. So I put that into a program, and I learned that being strong is not just the whole thing. I mean, you could get a guy that is weak, but he's got charisma. He can ad lib, and he's got showmanship, and he'll, run the other guy off the stage if you have a good program together. So I figured out a way I did 97 shows, haven't performed in about a couple of years, but I found that through my hardships as a kid, I could bless other people and show them, hey, listen, I'm no different than you. I just chose to go down a different path.
So, what was the segue then from, I've seen you bend wrenches and all kinds of stuff. What was the thing that took you onto the neck specifically, what you're primarily known for, I guess?
Because when I was a kid, like I said, my biological father was a scumbag. My mom's second husband was a scumbag. I called him the boogeyman. He looked like a cross between Shrek and Frankenstein, 270 pounds, and hated me. And would always grab, I had these big ears like I still got now, so I had to build a neck to support the ears. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I had this weird looking afro thing, and he would grab me by my little pencil neck and throw me around, throw the kitchen table into the refrigerator onto the couch, and I was just tormented. And so when I got into wrestling, I realized that we always said that where your head goes, your body falls. You have a thick neck, it's going to be harder for someone to ragdoll you. And I was sick of being ragdolled and thrown around and folded around like dirty laundry. So I started building my neck up at 13 years old. I've never stopped. And I just realized I had a strong neck. And usually any performing strongman that is of merit all has a signature feat. So I thought, well, what would separate me from everybody else is no one else is doing neck things. So the first thing I did was, and don't do this, please, I hung myself with a noose. There's a short clip of that on YouTube. So don't go hang yourself with a noose.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't take your brain out and play with it, gentlemen. Let's not do that, okay? That's what got me started. I put a neck harness on. I could pick up somebody like Rich and bend over and pick him up like this and rep him, because I could do 300 pounds was a record I set in 2008 or 2007. I picked up 300 pounds in a seated position like this. So I started picking up human beings in my shows. I started bending bars across my throat and just realized that could be my signature feat. And that's what kind of helped me more along my performing strongman career.
So I want you to kind of walk us through your workout routine, Mike, here in just a second. A little before I do, let's see who's on here. Let's see. Les, good morning, sir. Dan, good morning. Kevin. Doug Lightfoot says, I want to learn to bend metal spikes and horseshoes. I'm going to ask you where Doug can learn some of that. Jeffrey is on. James, and if you have any questions for Mike, please leave them in the comment section below. Please like and share. We're just getting started, folks. So, Mike, walk us through before I go there, okay? You alluded to something that Mr. Doug Lightfoot said last week, and that is that, well, you alluded to it. You didn't directly say it, but I want to put you on the carpet on this one. Is being strong also have anything to do with morality? Like, do you look at strength as an extension of your character or anything like that?
That's a deep question to unpack. For me, strength was never about being big or running around your banana hammock, flexing your muscles. Nothing against any of you gentlemen if you're a bodybuilder, but running around your banana hammock and flexing your muscles and oiled up was never about that. I didn't care about that. My thing was, when you were beaten to the point by a police officer who was my mom's second husband was, and you're told you're nothing, you're ugly, you're nothing but a little punk, you're never going to amount to anything, that to the point you have night terrors and you're in and out of the child development unit, the padded room for 2 weeks at Leonard Morris Hospital in Natick, Mass. And they're saying, what's this ink spot look like? Your mind, you don't want to be around anymore. So all your mother does is cry. So my point of building strength was as armor to protect myself. And I thought that because some of my idols when I was a child, such as Bruno Sammartino, Mike Tyson, even Lou Thez, who wasn't a big man, but he could stretch you. Those guys, I always imagined would never be picked on or beat up. And I thought if I could build my body up, maybe people wouldn't pick on me anymore, and I could eventually take out my stepfather. I know it sounds terrible, but I wanted to learn how to defeat him. And I ended up doing that with toys of all things. I ended up defeating him with Transformers, G.I. Joes, and Star Wars toys that set up around my bed. And I put my bed in the corner because he could always get to me. One day I figured out I'm gonna know how to beat this man. So I put my bed in the corner, I hid behind it because I was small and skinny. And put all my toys around. He came running after me one day. I slid under the bed in the corner, and he was so big he couldn't get to me. He stepped on all my toys and hurt his feet. That's the first time I learned how to defeat a man. But anyways, for me, yes, physical training, strength to me is strong. And I think it's an insult to men because nowadays the PC police want to kill manhood. I'm not going to go there too much. I'm just saying weakness is evil, strength is good. Every man should have some form of strength, not to be a knucklehead, walk around your chest out, flex your muscles, but just a way to help for yourself and also in your family, to guide, guard, and govern your family. Not in a dictatorish way, but it's just important, I think, because a man's body should be healthy, I believe. And everybody's got their own individual way of what health should be. But for me, I know Father Time is coming, and there's nothing I can do about it. None of us can, right? But I've been training nonstop since I was 13 years old. And I'm going to do my best to keep Father Time at bay. You understand? I'm going to do my best every day to train, to give myself the best chance to keep pushing him away as long as I can. And ultimately, we don't have we can't make that decision. But in my mindset, if I tap out and say, forget this, the time to do the work is even when you don't feel like doing the work. The work always has to come first. So I hope that kind of explains it. I didn't mean to waffle on too much, but that's a deep question to to give an answer to.
No, that was a great answer, brother. Great answer.
Hope I didn't confuse anybody by that.
No, I think you're right. You know, Dr. Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you know who he is, Mike, but he has a saying that is very like, a good man is not a harmless man. A good man is a dangerous man who keeps it under control, or something like that, you know. But let's see,
I
Marcus
know who that
on.
is. It's important for men to keep their bearing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So, tell us about so you own a gym in Somerset, Kentucky. Tell us a little bit about what got you into gym ownership, and then I want to talk about what does your workout regimen look like, or what do you do for your clients, etc.
All right. Well, I started. What happened was I came to this state and made a wrong turn. Didn't have. Only had $247.38 to my name. I was starting to be. I was a trainer here at a local big box gym, and I brought in 34 paying clients. The gym changed ownership. They were going to finagle me out of quite a bit of money of percentages, and I didn't agree with it. So it's one of those things where people always dream about what they want to do, but they never take the step to achieve the dream. And I was like, there's no way I am not being walked on. I've not been walked on since I was 13, and I'm not going to start now. So this coming next week, May 16th, will be starting my 12th year in business. So I made a decision to start at my gym. And my gym is the only private gym in town, meaning that I don't, and this sounds kind of arrogant, but just hear me out. I don't care who you are, what your value is in the community, if you're a big shot, big wig, how much money you have. My gym is a private gym. It's not open to the public. That means I run it like the Marine Corps. That means that I screen everybody. If I think you're a knucklehead and you have a bad attitude, or you want to tell me how big and bad you are, which has not impressed me the least, or you're some girl that wants to do selfies, hey, look at me, here's my rear end, all this other kind of trash, I'm not interested. You're not coming in my doors, period. So, and that's how I do it. It's kind of like the law of scarcity, but times 100. If I get any kind of bad vibe, I don't take it. So I have 76 people on the roster, starting my 12th year. My 4th location, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I actually took a wall down. There's a scaffold back there, and we're expanding during this quarantine time. I will not go backwards. I constantly move forward, and I'm going to give my crew that's with me the best facility that I can for them when they return, which hopefully will be in 2 weeks is the plan. And I'm very grateful that I'm able to do this. I never take it for granted. I just decided, hey, listen, I'm not going to take a step backwards. I'm going to every day take 1 foot forward and just take the step. The main thing is just to start, and I started.
Yeah, you have. So let's see. We have Doug says, spot on, Bruce. Strength is not a weakness. I got into the martial arts and weight training because I got tired of being bullied and beaten up. Mark says, sorry, yes, I'm late, Rich. Out on a file. Morning from Toronto, Canada. James, good morning. Jeffrey, good morning. Elke, looks like Elke has put a link to some of your content on YouTube, Mike. Thanks, Elke. Please like and share.
Well, thank
Mike,
you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what does your workout routine look like right now, and then maybe what you build for your clients. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, those are 2 totally different things. So we'll cover the clients first. So what I do is I run basically a cardio kickboxing gym. There is weight training involved, but basically my clientele is mainly ladies. The reason why is, unfortunately, like I said earlier, where I'm at is a lot of men just want to be tough guys. And I don't train fighters. I'm not interested. I don't care. I don't want to. It's just not my thing. As you well know, Rich, I do privates with some people. But anyway, we do a 30 to 40, usually 45-minute class, 2 days a week, cardio kickboxing. I teach them probably how to hold their hands, how to fight, but we don't spar. The other days are mixes between body weight training, strength training, and it's always about 45 minutes long. I don't give them any leeway. We get in and we train. I scale everything according to the individual person. So I have beginners working with intermediate and advanced people, but I always adjust it and modify for everybody. So that way you've got people of all different levels working together. And I explain to everyone, just like the Marine Corps, no one's better than anybody else. I don't tolerate none of that stuff. And I've built a camaraderie in here that is by far, there's nothing else like it. regarding my training, that's a whole different. So I don't do any powerlifting anymore. I don't deadlift anymore because I re-injured my back doing a charity show, as you said, about a horseshoe. I was twisting a horseshoe as a charity show in 2015 for a bunch of people with certain kind of handicaps, such as Down syndrome, very challenging handicaps like that. So there's different grades of steel, different grades of horseshoes. Well, I always bring my challenge horseshoe, which is like a shoe. I did it at the max security prison. I could have used an easier horseshoe because the gentlemen, the people and ladies I was performing for wouldn't have cared either way. When I went to twist the shoe, it was tempered, boom, re-injured the back, even worse than it was before. Couldn't walk, had to use a walker, 4 months of rehab, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, so I'm saying all that because I don't do the things I used to do. So current workout is this. I always open up with calisthenics. I decided back before this whole pandemic situation junk hit that I was going to try to train like I did back in my competitive years of 20 years ago. So here's what that is. I do 5 to 6 days a week, is 20 rounds. Those 20 rounds consist of push-ups, usually 25, 30 reps. The next exercise is cardio, conditioning. Could be jump rope, could be burpees, could be jumping jacks, could be airdyne bike, what have you. It's between 30 seconds or 10 reps. The third exercise is either chin-ups, a rope climb, or I'll do some upright rows or rear delts. 20 rounds. I try to finish that under 45 minutes. That's my warm-up. Then after that, as my reward for finishing that, I'm then allowed to lift. So what I do a lot with lifting, I don't train like a bodybuilder. I don't train to pump. I train as if I was going to fight. So everything is timed. So I'll use like a Tabata timer with my neck, or let's say I'm going to press. I'll do flat dumbbell presses, whether I'm either going to punch or just regular pressing. And I'll do it for 20 seconds, rest 10, 20 seconds, do 10 rounds. Or I might combine 2 exercises. And I train 5 to 6 days a week. I always take Sunday off. Some days I also, in the cardio piece, I might run down the end of my street and come back. My goal is I want to be able to be functionally, combatively fit and be in the shape like I was as a wrestler. I don't want to get winded. I don't want to get blown up. Not that I'm blown up and such a tired. Not that I want to fight anybody, but I want to be able to protect my wife, or Lord forbid, some knucklehead crazy guy comes in here during my class. I want to be able to still have a couple of good scraps left in me if I had to. So I train with that mentality.
Yeah, I love it, man. Let's see what we have here. Les said he missed guide, guard, and something else when you're talking about a man's role. Mike, do you remember what that was?
Yes, yes, sir. Guide, guard, and govern. I think a man's responsibility in the home, again, my wife is my equal. My wife is my best friend. I just think as a man, though, too many men these days, you see the commercials, right? I'm not going to get on a tangent about the PC junk. Everything with men now is to make men look weak. It's to take away the masculinity of being a man and not be happy about being a maximized man and loving your wife. So my idea for a man is to guide, guard, and govern. Guide, meaning as a man, we should be leaders. We shouldn't be followers. And I understand not every man is a leader, but I'm a leader and I'm always going to be. And so I try to lead in my home, because if I can't lead, who else is going to? So I lead, so guide, guard, because all men we should protect. Again, it comes back to fitness and your mindset. You have a weak mindset and go hide in a corner, suck on your thumb and worry about everything and be scared, or you're going to have a strong mindset and a dominant will to be able to guard your loved ones. And then govern, meaning that not as a dictator. I can't stand dictators. I would never tell my wife, you're going to do this and that. I simply just give suggestions as a way of governing over the home. And my wife does too. That's what I mean by that. Because some people take govern as, well, you're going to tell her what. No. Mm-mm. My wife does what she wants, when she wants, how she wants, because she's a sweetheart and I trust her. So that's what I mean by those 3 things.
Gotcha. Yeah, spot on, brother. Okay, let's get into, tell me about what you're doing now with neck flex, Mike. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I had the blessing of about, I'd say 5 years ago now, two gentlemen who own a company called the Netflix contacted me. These guys sent me this thing. Bruce inspired us to neck company off of your feats of strength and what have you. And basically they asked me if I'd be interested, blah, blah, blah. So I've been with them ever since. And it got to the point that I got to build my own neck harness. So, back as a kid who was always told you nothing, you're never going to mount anything, your little pencil neck and your big goofy ears and all that trash. And everyone made fun of me for training my neck. And then now you fast forward to now, and I have my own neck harness on the market that sells all over the world. And I wanted to come up with the be all end all of neck training, meaning that what would we need to train our neck in all sorts of different ways with just one piece of equipment. So it is with a resistance band. Also, we have a door stopper, which comes with a chain. I got to design the colors of it. I've got my own MMB, Mike Machine Bruce neck harness. And the Neck Flex is amazing because with a band concept, the possibilities are only limited to your imagination. When you have a chain, which I do love old school neck training with a chain, but a lot of times you get at a good pace, that thing will I call it it'll jack you up. Sometimes it'll jack a little bit and you get a zinger. The Neck Flex is a fluid motion, as well as we've got 4 different rings, so you can work rotation and size, which is you've never been able to do with a harness. So it's been quite an amazing journey, and it just goes to show you that you just never know who's watching you. So we're not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I've got a lot of things I try to always be better than I was yesterday, but I always tell people, always be mindful where you are and how you act, because you never know who's watching you. And that's a perfect example. All those years of neck training, I had no clue that 2 guys I've met, one's in Texas, one's in Virginia, paid attention to me, and now I have my own harness. So, I'm not going to preach to people because that's not my game. I'm just saying that for me being Mike the Machine, there might be 5 people that actually care about that. But when I'm out in public, I'm not going to walk around with my attitude on my sleeve like I'm Mike the Machine, because you never know who's watching you. And that's not how real men should act anyway. We should always be humble and be quiet and stay on our side of the street and stay in our lane. I don't think a man that's boisterous and running his mouth all the time is the way to go. So I always be mindful of who's around you when you speak, because you just never know what could happen. And in my case, it was a positive. So.
Yeah. Now, where can they get your neck harness if they wanted to check that out, Mike? Where can they find that?
You could go to theneckflex.com. If you want to know more about neck training, all that kind, or my training or any of that kind of stuff, you can always hit my website up at mikethemachinebruce.com. I'm just going to give you a heads up though on my website, because again, I'm not politically correct. So if you go to my blog and that would be something you're not interested in and that kind of a mindset or vibe, I would stay away from the blog, but check out the Neck Flex anyway.
And I believe you have some ebooks and other products out there, Mike. Is that all on mikethemachinebruce.com?
Yes, sir. Yep. I've got an ebook, my basic neck training ebook, how to start. I've got how to start a gym with no money like I did. I've got another book that's geared called How to Be a Real Man. And that there's a couple of links that are bad in that. So if anybody did order that, please let me know, because my web guys, I'm not talented like that, but he's supposedly fixing those links because YouTube deleted them. And sometimes YouTube does stuff like that because it's not my platform, as all of you probably know. So I didn't even know they were gone until someone ordered it and told me. So there's a couple things on there if people are interested in ordering. And you can learn more about all my training as well. There's a link to YouTube and things like that as well.
Okay, Michael. I've kept you on here about 34 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. We got a question here. It says, any advice for folks with degenerative neck problems?
The first thing I would say, and some people don't like this, is I would check out a chiropractor. For me, the chiropractor is the gentleman, well, my chiropractor saved my back. The neurosurgeon wanted to do surgery. They said I needed surgery. I was on a scale of 1 to 5. I was a 4 needing surgery. And I did not want surgery. And to the point, my chiropractor put me on a conference call with 2 other people. And I ended up avoiding surgery and fixing my back. So I think anything muscular wise, the chiropractor is the way to go. It would be wrong of me to say, yes, do neck training with your degenerative issues without knowing what you have, and me not being a doctor. I just simply don't have the integrity on my end to do that. be wrong. Because the neck has been used in chiropractic care, and it can help stretch your neck as well as build it. Do not do any kind of neck training with a plate or any kind of neck harness with a chain. Do not. Chiropractor first. If that's okay, hit me up and I'll help you get contacted in NeckFlex, and I can show you some rehab programs with that.
And looks like Elke has put a link to the neckflex.com. So thank you, Elke, for that. Mike, before I let you go, brother, any parting comments for the folks that are watching live, or perhaps the folks that are watching the replay? Anything that any advice you'd give them?
I would just say, first of all, I want to say thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the people that tuned in. I don't do many interviews. Of course, Rich is, I love Rich, one of my few closest friends. I just say, look, we do one thing perfect, and only one thing, and that's to be ourselves. You know, just stay on your side of the street, stay in your lane, you know, do you, know who you are, and don't listen to everybody. And if you have people that all they do is bring drama and negativity to you, banish them, because all they do is hold you back. If I listen to what everybody told me about my neck, I'm never going to amount to nothing, I was such a jerk. Look, I ended up doing quite a few things in life, even though I'm still got a ways to go, right? I plan to keep going, but keep moving forward. If you want something bad enough, don't listen to everybody else. Just go for it. Because if I listened to everybody else, I would never had my gym. And now, like I said, I'm going on my 12th year. I started with no money. So just be you, do you, and always try to improve on that. Never try to stay where you were yesterday. Because if you keep staying where you are in the past, you're never going to move forward.
I love it, brother. I love it. Well, Mike, it was an honor to have you on the show, man. I really appreciate you taking time to do this with us this morning. It really means a lot, man.
Well, I really appreciate you for having me. And I'm so glad we, of course, reconnected years ago. And I appreciate all your audience for asking questions. If anybody has any other questions, listen, I'm good to go. You know, contact me through my website or what have you. I'll be happy to help you out and answer anything. I don't charge for that. So
I appreciate that, Mike. Folks, thank you for coming on the show this morning, man. It was a really good show. My dear friend, Mike the Machine Bruce up there in Kentucky, doing the right things for the right reason, man. Stay strong, brother. And thanks again, Mike.
thank you. Have a great day.
Remember, folks, the fight is coming. Be ready.